What's going on, guys? Welcome to a brand new video on PrizePicks. My name is Bam, and we're here with the best plays for NBA Fridays. We got NBA Cup going on every single Friday at this point. Since I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, no, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago right now. And there's a ton of spicy matchups on the board. So we're gonna look at this. We've got around 9 games to get through in this game. We're gonna give at least one play for every single game. But first up, do me a solid, drop a like on this video. And now let's go ahead and talk about the Discord. So the Discord is where I drop free plays, and there's also an open chat in here. That's the first link in my bio. And if you want to get free VIP access, just hit that link and then DM me on Discord right here at BAM. Now, let's move in to just talking about how this Thursday night game went, because it was a very interesting game, but in some ways, in many ways, it went exactly as predicted. So what did I say? I missed on one play right here, and I'll raise my hand and say that. I took Justin Fields on the over at 130 passing yards. I thought that line was so low, and I mean, it's Justin Fields, so that's the reason why the line was low. I thought it was too low, and he missed, right? He had 116. That one was on me. But every single other play, we greened. We took the over on the game total. The over line was set pretty high, actually. I was, like, very surprised as to why it was this high. So we cashed that one out. And then we went ahead and took this play right here, which was Travion Henderson on the under on rushing yards. His line was at 79.5, which was ridiculously high. So we took the under right there. He greened out for 62, although we had a great game, right? 19 carries, 2 touchdowns, and he even went ahead and had a receiving touchdown too. He was the player of the game for me, and basically for everybody else. Stephon Diggs played amazing, but Travion Henderson was the one who sort of showed up on the stat sheet. I'm sorry if you played against him in fantasy football, but that's neither here nor there. We cashed out on his under rushing yards. Great play right there. And then we just took Patriots on the spread. I know it was a big spread, 11.5, but they greened us out, right? Not too much of a sweat. Now, we're going to go ahead and talk about some plays for this game right about now. So, first game we're going to go ahead and talk about is this Orlando versus Brooklyn. We're going to do it right over here. And we've got a bunch to talk about right here, because number one, the Brooklyn Nets are just a terrible team, right? That's the first thing you got to pay attention to when you're looking at the Nets. And this reflects that. I'm going to scroll right here. This is actually, you can't make this up, right? Look at these stats. Opponent rank versus DPT, opponent rank versus DSZ, defensive shooting zone, and then their defensive rating overall, right? 30th in defensive rating, dead last, right? Defensive shooting zone, 28th. DPT, dead last. Paint points allowed, dead last, right? So when it comes to players facing the Brooklyn Nets, they're going to have a great game, right? They're going to have a great game, but this is actually kind of a double-edged sword, because the Brooklyn Nets, although their defense is terrible, this year it's so terrible that star players really don't even get to 25 minutes sometimes, right? Sometimes they get 25 minutes and they clock out, because there's no need. They're already up by 20 points on the game. I'll show you guys how the Nets have been faring recently, as you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Right here, played the Knicks, lost by a little under 40. Played the Raptors, kept this one close, just a 10-point loss right there. Then, another big loss. This was one of their only, I think this was their only win so far in the season. Big loss, kept it close by 5, loss, right? So they only won one game this season. That was against a very injured Pacers team. Now they're going up against the Magic, they haven't started as hot as many would hope, but they're still very solid in their own way, right? So this Orlando Magic team is going to eat against the Brooklyn Nets. But one play that I love is the game total on the under. So 225.5 is a low total, but we're going here to a game with two teams that really aren't super talented at scoring, right? We don't even talk about how the Brooklyn Nets can't score because they can't really do anything. But the Orlando Magic are one of those teams that they'd rather stop you from scoring than go ahead and score themselves. And what does that mean? They prefer a defensive game of basketball, right? They prefer a physical game of basketball. They really slow down the clock, right? They're not just firing up threes with 20 seconds still on the shot clock. That's the kind of team that's going to get into high-scoring games. Orlando Magic is not that kind of team, right? So I like the under right here a ton. And, yeah, we're going to stay away from player props because, like I said, you could take the over because they got a great matchup in Brooklyn. But then you got to realize, wait a minute, they might not even play that much, right? So it's not really worth it right there. But let's go ahead and talk about this Heat versus Knicks game now. And one player that I think is going to step up a lot in Jalen Brunson's absence for this specific game is Mikal Bridges, right? It is so clear out, we're going to go with Jalen Brunson without, right? And look at the whole season of last season, right? It is so clear that when Mikal Bridges plays for the Knicks and Jalen Brunson is not in, right? It's just a money play, right? It's just a money play to take his over, right? If you look at this, I've basically just done all the stats for you. I'm pulling up all the games last season when Mikal Bridges was in and Jalen Brunson was not in, right? And what happens in those games? Mikal usually pops off. Only 6 of these games he went under in. Every other game he created, right? And it's not like he's just barely getting over the line. Look at these games. 27, 33, 28, 27, 26, 28, 20 points, right? And now his line is sitting at 17.5. Yes, of course, the line has risen because Jalen Brunson is out. But it's just such a clear difference, right? Look at this. If we say Jalen Brunson is in, he hits this line at 38% of the time. Then when Jalen Brunson is out, he's hitting the line at 62% of the time. So tonight Jalen Brunson is out. We're taking Mikal Bridges to pop off. He's only hit this at 36% of the time. As you guys can tell, we're taking trends from last season and applying them to this season because it's very similar. This Knicks team is one of those teams that didn't change all that much over this offseason, right? So we can apply these same principles, apply these same trends. Mikal Bridges is one of our players for today. Now, we're going into the Sixers and the Pistons. This one, if you told me, I would say a month ago, 2 months ago, oh, do you really want to watch Sixers versus Pistons? I'd probably say yes because it was the basketball offseason. But if it wasn't for that, I would be like, nah, that game does not sound interesting. And so would every other NBA fan. But it's actually super interesting. The Pacers, or not the Pacers, the Pistons and the Sixers are two of the most fun teams right now, right? Pistons are 5.5 point favorites in this one. I think that could go either way, honestly, because there's just so many question marks on this team, right? Obviously, Embiid is out, and right now, Ed Scrub is questionable. I think he's still going to play in this one, but Tyrese Maxey's the X factor, right? His line is at 30 points. Is he going to over under 30 points? I don't know, but I really like Tyrese Maxey right here on the assist. So if you bump this line down to 6.5, which many apps are allowing it at, you'll see that he's only missed this in 2 games this season, right? He's only missed this in 2 games. Playing the Celtics, he missed by 1, and he playing the Bulls in the middle of the season, he managed to miss that one, right? But last time he played the Pistons, which was just literally like last week, he greened out this play. 7 assists, 11 potential assists. And he's usually getting around that line. Sometimes he's even popping off for 18 potential assists like this one against the Cavs, right? So, Embiid is out in this game. Been out for a little bit now. But this one, where Tyrese Maxey is going to have the ball in his hands for basically all 40 minutes that he's in on the court, right? He's playing a ridiculous amount of minutes. We've got to go ahead and talk about this. 38 minutes, 43 minutes, 36 minutes, 34 minutes. Last time I played the Pistons, it was 38 minutes and I lost by 3. I think this one's going to be a great game for Maxey. I like him a lot on the assists specifically, but if you want to get a little bit of action there with his points, take him on points plus assists. Now, moving on to the next one, we got Kings going up against the Wolves. So the Kings are a terrible defense. Nobody needs to be reminded of that, I hope, because just look at these numbers, right? The Kings on the defensive end. I'll pull up the graph for y'all. Defensive rating right here. So every time he plays, this blue line goes up. It means they're playing a very bad defense, right? So bad defense is here. Would you look at that? What's the other team where the line went up a ton? It was the Kings last time, right? Last time he played the Kings. So this time Ant got 26 points in this one, but it was in a win by 27, right? So that's what I'm talking about. When you're going up against super bad defenses, the Nets, the Kings, it's going to be a great game for you, right? You're gonna find scoring so easy as a star player. Scoring is going to be the lightest thing in the world, but you might not play your expected amount of minutes, and that's kind of a big problem for taking player props. So yeah, player props, a little bit rough to take right there. But one place where I think we could absolutely hammer is the spread. So Minnesota right here, our spread is at 12.5, and I think we're taking them to cover them, right? I genuinely think we are, because this Kings team is just so easy to bet against, right? It's ridiculous how easy this team is to bet against. And if you look at last time they played, they won by 27 points, right? Here, literally every other team, they're playing them kind of close, except for this game against the Jazz and this game against the Kings. The Kings are just such a bad defense, it makes no sense, right? They don't have much on offense, honestly. if you look at their players, it's weak, right? It should be great. You just hear these names: Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Domantas Sabonis. You hear that and you think, wow, this has got to be a great team. But then you look at it and you go, what's going on right now, right? Sabonis started on fire. Then he kind of dropped off, right? So you got to bet with how the teams are playing right now. And right now the Wolves are way stronger than the Kings. So we're taking the Wolves. Another game that I want to watch just because I really like watching Lakers basketball right now, but I hate that they're playing the Pelicans because the Pelicans are not interesting at all as a team. We're going to go ahead and talk about this one. Opposing team defensive rating. Now the Pelicans have notoriously, last few years, had a decent defense for being such a mid team, right? Because you got players like Trey Murphy, who are pretty solid. Herb Jones, notably one of the best defenders out there in the NBA. That's what we've been saying the last few years. Now it seems like that's all come crashing down for the Pelicans, right? They're not a good defense. They are the 28th ranked team in defensive rating, which basically means they're the third best matchup out there, right? They're not up there with the Nets, but they're pretty close. So this is going to be the easiest defense that Luka Doncic has faced, and I want you guys to look at this blue line, right? Why am I pulling up this blue line? Because I'm showing how does Luka perform relative to the opposing team's defensive rating, right? So he starts off here against the Warriors, who have a very middle-of-the-road defense. If the blue line is high, that means it's an easy defense. If the blue line is low, that means it's a very staunch defense, right? Started off pretty mid, still popped up for 30 points. Then he got an even easier defense in the Wolves, and he greened out 49 points. Then he had a very easy defense in the Grizzlies, also hit his over on another 40-point game. Then a steep drop-off. He played a pretty tough defense in the Miami Heat, and then he went under for his first time in the season. Then he had a even tougher defense in the Spurs, but because this game was super close and he played 42 minutes in this one and had 17 free throws, those were the main reasons why he went over, right? But then look at this. Really tough defense in the Hawks. They are the number one defense right here. It says number one defensive rating. So I wouldn't take them over the Thunder, but according to the stats, they're right up there with the Thunder, Trailblazers, all these great teams, right? And he misses, right? Misses against a tough defense. Who would have thought? Then he plays the Hornets, pretty bad defense. He greens back to normal. Then he plays the Thunder, very good defense. They're defensive rating number 2. So against defensive rating number 1 and defensive rating number 2, those are the only games in the last little bit that he's gone on, right? And that makes sense. It's a tough defense. But you know what it is tonight? Anything but. It's not a tough defense. You just got a nice, easy ride against the Pelicans, who are the third worst defense in basketballs, right? So we're following the trends. Luka is going to get back to having a great game. And Luka's one of those players where people will say that players just care about the win. No, they care about the stats too. They care about filling up the stat sheet. They care about being on the MVP race. They care about all this stuff. And a Friday night NBA Cup game against the Pelicans is the perfect time for you to assert your dominance. And really with little to no effort, it seems like Luka's putting into this, right? I mean, that's a compliment. It looks like it's effortless when he does it. That's what I'm trying to say. He can easily cruise to a win. He can cruise to an easy 35-plus point game. You wouldn't say that for many other players, but Luka is just that guy, right? Now, we're moving into the next one. Right down here, Blazers versus Rockets. So two great defenses in this one. Two great defenses. Opponent defensive rating, Blazers right up there with the top, especially against the DPT. So spot-up shooters like Kevin Durant, they are not a good matchup for them, right? So we'll look at this. I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. It literally just shows you when is he playing against a defense that is staunch against his specific DPT, right? His specific player type, right? When you look at when does this blue line hit the bottom? Against the Mavs and against the Trailblazers. And he went well under there. Under, right? Now he's going up against the Trailblazers. We're fading KD on this specific play. Now this is weird to think, right? Because the Rockets surprisingly have one of the best offenses in the NBA. And why is it surprising? Because it's just not their identity, right? You think of their identity, you don't think of scoring, you think of defense, you think of rebounding, right? But it makes quite a bit of sense when you think that they just brought in one of the best scorers of all time in Kevin Durant, right? This is not his day. This is not his day. He's playing up against the Trailblazers, who are a great defense. They hound you 94 feet of the court. And it's just not a good matchup for his specific player type, right? I think Şengün could pop off. I think Amen Thompson could do well. Smith, Eason, Shepard, they could do well. But Kevin Durant is the one player that the Trailblazers go, we can clamp down on a player that plays exactly like this, right? So that's what they're going to do against KD in this one. Now, Hornets versus Bucks. This is a fade game for me because Giannis is going in with a half injury. We don't know if he's injured. We don't know if he's going to sit. We don't know if he's going to play. And Hornets versus Bucks. This is a key fade game, right? I'm just going to drop some betting insight for you. When two teams in the NBA play a back-to-back, in the NBA or any sport, right? Usually happens in the NBA. Often happens in baseball, so I wouldn't really go that far because it happens so often. But let's just talk about the NBA. When the two teams have a back-to-back game like this, Bucks play Hornets on Wednesday, Bucks play Hornets on Friday, this is exactly where you fade, right? You fade the heck out of this game. What does that mean? You just don't take any plays, right? You want to keep your money far away from this because a lot of the public, the stupid public, are going to think, well, whatever happens in this game, it's got to happen in this game, right? That's just like no variables have changed. Why would anything change, right? That's a stupid way of thinking, obviously. Anybody who knows sports, anybody who knows statistics would tell you you're an idiot for saying that, right? But at the same time, it kind of feels like maybe there are something, right? So this is one of those games where Giannis is out, right? Potentially out, potentially in. We don't know, right? I'm recording this at 2 a.m. on Thursday night, right? B, it's a prime fade game because of the back-to-back rule, right? This is a personal rule that I have, and it's served me well, very well so far, right? You likely, more often than not, lose money betting on the second half of a back-to-back because your thinking is so, like a huge portion of the decision-making that's going into this play has to do with this one game, right? That's not sample size. That's not statistics. That's not using your knowledge and your brain to the fullest extent. So we're going to stay away from this game. It's also Hornets versus Bucks. Really anything could happen, right? Both of these teams are super unpredictable. But one game that's not unpredictable is Clippers versus Mavs because we are taking the under in this game. Whoa, who would have thought? Clippers versus Mavs. These teams can't score to save their lives. Anthony Davis is questionable for this game. Cooper Flag is good, but you don't know if he's going to score 12 or score double that, right? You really just don't know. And you go to the Clippers side of the ball, Harden's the same way, right? Sometimes he cares, sometimes he doesn't, sometimes he puts up 35 against a tough defense, sometimes he is not at all, on the court, it feels like, right? This is one of those games where we're taking the under. We're taking the under, even if the line's low, 219, I'm taking it. Now, let's talk about the game of the night, right? Warriors versus Spurs, and there's a lot to talk about in this one. There's a lot to talk about. I'm going to go ahead and give a play for this one, even though, like I was just saying, just recently faced off, right? Just recently faced off on Wednesday. We are going to go into this with an exercise not talking about this last game. Let's not talk about what happened in the last game. And let's just focus on the entire season as a whole and make our prediction for this one. So, De'Aaron Fox as a whole has had a couple games, but not a big enough sample size. We're going to stay away from it. Steph Castle is the player we are going to be targeting. Steph Castle is the player we're going to be targeting because Victor Wembanyama, he goes over when teams let him, pretty much, and he goes under when teams double the heck out of him, right? When teams literally are just like, okay, we got one game plan, stop Wemby. Then he goes under, right? Obviously, anybody would. But Steph Castle has been way more consistent, right? I want you guys to see, how do these green bars change when it comes to Castle, when it comes to Wemby, right? When it comes to Castle, when it comes to Wemby. So Wemby's bars that are red are basically Castle's bars that are green. And Wemby's bars that are green are more often than not, Castle's bars that are green or red, right? So Castle is the more consistent player of these guys. His line at 17.5 is a little high. I would bump this down, not that far, because you're not going to get any money, but take him at 15 plus points, right? This is a great matchup right here. And the last time he missed against this was when he was playing the Nets, right? Or the first time he missed against, he was playing against Nets. Nets are a terrible defense, but we know how Wemby was playing in those first few games. We know how Castle was playing in those first few games. It was a very Wemby-dominated system, right? Then he played him against the Rockets and just missed this one by one. So I really love this as a parlay piece. Add it into your parlays. It might be minus 200, minus 250. I'm not exactly sure. I haven't checked it on my own. Might even be better than that. But yeah, those are all my plays for NBA Friday. Drop a like, drop a comment if you appreciated it, and I'll see you guys in the next one once we cash.